Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to Psychically Speaking. If you're a regular listener, thank you for being such an important part of this journey with me. And if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. I'm so glad you found your way here. This is a podcast where intuition meets real life truth with just the right dash of sass. So I'm very excited to have a special guest on today. Her name is Tearhsa Wilder, and she wrote an amazing book that I am in love with called Smiling from the Heart. And it so fits in to everything that we are always talking about. So without further ado, as they say, let's welcome Tearhsa. Tearhsa, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. I am in love with this book. So I want to just start for people that are not aware of what you do or who you are, just give us a little bit of information about yourself and most importantly, what led you to write this book that I absolutely love.
Well, hello, Lisa Ann. Thank you so much for loving my book. That means so much to me and warms my heart a lot. It really does. I was a little nervous when I mailed it to you. I'm like, I wonder what she's going to think because I so value your thoughts.
I love it. I love it.
Well, I started my personal journey. I am 62 now, so that was like in my late, I was in my 40s when I started waking up, as we call it. And it was I was living in fear. I was living in a lot of fear. I had made up a story that wasn't, well, it was mine. It was true for me at the time, but it wasn't true in my heart. It wasn't who I really was. And I just felt so weighted down. And so I felt ugly on the inside. And I was such a people pleaser. It's, I lived for the outside and not for the inside. And the mind chatter was taken over. And then when I started my own healing, my healing journey, it really started with my next book, which is called Magic Power in Me. I work through a triangle, and that's what helped me to release all those fears from the inside. But we'll get to that one next quarter, January through March, I think around February.
Nice. Nice.
But I just knew that there was more to life. There was more to my life. This was my life, not everyone else's, not anyone else's. And I knew that there was no way that anyone was ever going to help me. Nobody was going to make that change for me but me. I was the only one. I had the pen in my hand. I just had to start I had to start rewriting my own story because I had that power. Only I had that power. And then in 2014, part of this journey is when I came. I do channel. I hear with my ear, my right ear, and I do see things, visions. And as I shared with you earlier, that I woke up to a beautiful vision with my grandma this morning. But at that point, I had grown a lot stronger within myself. And I started channeling, and the name of this book, Smiling from the Heart, came from that. And also, all 12 of the chapter titles, what it is. And it was really an outline of my journey, of what I had been through, and what had brought me inward to listen to my inner wisdom and make my own choices and take back my own power. And then 2016, this is in the book also. In 2016, then I was listening. I'm like, it took me a couple more years, and I was like, okay, now what? Now where do I go from here? And that's when I was given the questions underneath of each chapter. And that was like a decade ago. This is 2025. And this unfolding over 10 years is what brought this book to life, this process of my growth and my learning how to smile from my heart. So this book is not just my story, it's an invitation.
What I love about this is it's the perfect timing, really, for this book. I know you're talking about like the journey began so long ago, but I have to share is chapter 2. It says, "Life is a journey towards finding peace within our souls and understanding our true selves in the vast tapestry of the universe." And I loved that. And I love everything that you're talking about because I always tell our listeners, I feel like we're living in a world where people are trying to convince us that everything is everybody else's fault. And the reason why I have such an issue with that is because it's taking away the individual power. If we are always so focused on what everyone else is doing, and if we always feel like we are helpless and we're just the victim and we can never change anything, we can never find our true happiness. And that's what I love about what you just said. Like at some point, I think we all get to that point in life where we go, okay, you know what? I've gone through this, or I'm not happy with that, or this bad thing happened. And we get to that realization of I have to do something to change it, right? Because it doesn't matter what's happening. As soon as you make that decision to go, I want something different. I want more happiness, or I want a better job, or I want a more fulfilling relationship. That's where the healing really, really begins.
Yes, I totally agree. You're right, because the world outside starts putting those layers on us and saying, "This is who you should be. This is when you grow up. You should, and your parents are your model or your role models at school and so forth." And you start looking outside. I don't mean you. I mean me. All of us. We start
Yes, all of
and we
us.
start wearing those layers like they're our own, and they are not. They're not ours. Our truth is on the inside. It's our original blueprint. It's who we came here to be. And that's, for me, like you just referenced chapter 2, it's the quest for soul peace. How are you going to find it if you're looking outside? Because your soul's on the inside.
So you're known as the healer of hearts, which I love because anybody that knows me knows I'm a heart fanatic. I always have heart jewelry, heart this, heart that. But I love that. But what made you focus on the heart? Like, why do you think that's such an important part of the healing journey?
Well, my healing journey, as I said, began several years ago, and that's where I was led to focus was on the heart, because the heart's the bridge between the lower physical self. When we reference the primary chakras, the lower physical self, your intuition, your physical self, and then and the upper self, your mind's eye, your connection to divine source. The heart's that bridge, and until we can cleanse the heart and open the space in your heart in order to let your spiritual being, your higher self, your connection to divine source, until we can let that in and pass through the heart and get into our physical self, how can we live out loud from our truth if we have that block? If the heart's blocking our spiritual truth into our physical world, that there's no way to get it out. So cleansing the heart opens that bridge and let your physical self speak from your physical truth or your spiritual truth.
And you were going to talk a little bit more about all the other things you do because you're not just an author, but you're a healer and you have a Meridian Enlightenment energy healing that you do, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I wanted to ask you, like, how do people know when it's time to rewrite their story?
You become restless with life. Decisions are so hard to make. You look outside for opinions from everyone else. What do you think? What do they think? What will they think of me? Judgment, instead of looking on the inside. So you get very restless. You don't know really what your identity is, who you are anymore. You look around, and maybe your family or your friendship circle or your job, even the home, the place that you live in, seems unfamiliar and unsafe. And then you know it's time for a change.
I love that. And I think too, I I know from my own self when I look back at my own journey, I feel like we make things so much more complicated than they really need to be. And I know you have like simple shifts that you really feel just reconnect you to your truth. So, what
Yes.
are some simple shifts that you can share with our listeners?
Well, some of the shifts that I have that will come directly out of my book, Smiling from the Heart, is learning to go from hiding to honoring. Instead of hiding your truth, you begin to own it. You own your truth. And that could look like speaking up in a conversation, or like finally admitting to yourself that what you really want out of life. And you can find that in chapter 2, Soul Peace, that we were just talking about. And chapter 3 is your about life challenges. Whenever challenges arise, there's there's always a lesson. There's a gift within that. And then there's other ways, like going from numbing to noticing,
Oh, I
instead of
like that one.
numbing to noticing, instead of ignoring what's going on around you. Take notice, be aware, back up, pause, think about what's going on before you react. That's a big one. Start small. And I do agree with you. Never diminish someone else by saying I have this and I have that. That's kind of the ego speaking. And so I thoroughly agree with you there. Start small. I'm all about quick shifts. Um, so do life life can change in teeny tiny steps. It doesn't have to be a massive overhaul. You don't have to kick everybody out of your life, quit your job, quit paying your rent or your mortgage and up and, run away to Hawaii. You don't have to do all of those things in order to make changes. Change happens not overnight, but in baby steps, like going to the gym. You can't go to the gym tomorrow one time and walk out and be like, oh, look at me, I look like Popeye, because you're not going to. You're not, it's going to take time. And that's how the heart heals. And that's how you connect with your inner wisdom, is to take those little tiny bites, little small steps, little shifts every day or once a week. Choose one once a week and just focus on that one till you master it. And then choose another one. That's how it happens. That's why it took me over 10 years to write this book.
I think that's so important, and that's such a great thing to focus on, because people always try to focus on big giant changes and they become too overwhelming sometimes. But I think when you do the little changes, it gives you so much momentum, because you're like, oh, I did that. That was easy, right? So maybe you can't go, use the example of the gym. So maybe you can't go to the gym 1 hour every day a week, but maybe you could take a 10-minute walk once a week, right? Then when you do that, you start feeling better. And it's those little tiny changes. And that's one of the things that I really loved about the book, is it's almost like, I felt like it was almost like a roadmap, right? Like it got you asking all the right questions to yourself. You give examples in there, which I love, because I think sometimes when we read things and we're in an overwhelming place, sometimes our minds just can't like decide how to apply that in our own lives. So the fact that you gave like these little examples, I thought that was so helpful, because it really makes you go, oh, okay, I get that. So I just love the format of it. Now, for you with the book, there's so many different ways that I think this book can help our listeners. But what are like 3 ways that you think the book is the most helpful?
It gives you tools, as you were just speaking of. It gives you tools to take your old patterns that have already worn you thin and that you're ready to make changes with, and create new ones. It gives you simple steps simple baby steps again to 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 start rewriting, to pick up your pen and start rewriting your story the way that you want it to be from the inside. It gives you journaling prompts. It gives you all kinds of guidance to let you know that the, the stories that you have written in your life thus far and the feelings that you have, they're not failures. They're invitations for growth. It's your it's your inner wisdom that it's just start asking questions like, whose story am I really living? Is it aligned with my true self and with who I am now? Because the stories that you have in the past, those are gone. You can't change them. You can only learn from them. And I feel like each chapter, as you said in the book, is a movement. It's a movement towards this is where I began. And this is where my next step and my next step. And if you do all of them, it's a lot. It's a lot of different tasks. And let's don't call them tasks. That sounds hard, doesn't it?
No, because I really do. I just felt like it gave you a really good idea of like simple practices that you can use and a lot of tools to start shifting from fear and noise and old patterns. Because I think at the end of the day, everybody's looking for clarity. And I just feel like the way that you wrote this, that's really what it's helping you to get to, right? Because I know, again, thinking back to my own life and thinking back to clients that I've worked with over the years, when you're in that space of just feeling like discombobulated, overwhelmed, unhappy, you can't seem to find the clarity, right? It's like you're drowning and you're trying to save yourself, let alone try to plan what the next step is. So I just felt like the way that it was written and the different chapters and the different topics, I underlined so much as I went through this book that there's no way I could like go through everything. But I do want to address one chapter in the book because I know for me, this has always been a big block that I always have to like work on every day of my life. And it was chapter 6, forgiveness. And I loved what you wrote in here. You said it's the act of releasing ourselves from the grip of past hurts, allowing us to move forward with a lighter heart and clearer mind. And by choosing to forgive others and ourselves, we break the chains that bind us to past pain. So that's in two different paragraphs, but I loved that. And I just wanted to know if you would just talk a little bit about that because I know for myself, it was always like forgiveness was basically, I'm telling you that what you did to me is okay and it's not. And I feel like a lot of people get stuck in that. And it wasn't until I realized what an important step that was for the heart healing. So, do you want to talk about that just a real brief?
Sure. Um, this chapter talks about how to identify first what's you need to forgive. Is it others? Is it a situation? Is it yourself? So awareness is where we start with that. That's the first step towards even beginning to cleanse those thoughts and heal that. And then thinking about, once you find one, write down what there's we have many things to most of us have many things that we would like to forgive, including ourselves, which is, I believe, one of the most important and first steps. Um, Identifying who's responsible. Was it something I said or did? Of course, if it's a conversation, we contributed to it. Did you wrong others? What was your role? That's very important to know in a situation. What was my role? What did I say and do, or how could I have handled it differently? And then it's about peeling that back. It may be a small thing, a small event that happened in your life, or it may be a large thing. And if it's a large thing, it may need to heal in layers, one at a time. Which portion are you ready to release at this point? And then the next step, what am I ready to release? It's like the onion. We all use the onion and back. And then it's deciding what is the right first step for you in order to begin that forgiveness. Is it journaling? Is it writing it down on a piece of paper? Is it actually speaking to another person? And if so, is that person still in physical form? Or sometimes, the things that we feel that we need to release and heal is with someone that's already passed over into, the spiritual world. And we can also connect with them and work through forgiveness. And then from there, it's step two. It's those quick, or not quick, but those baby steps again. And then in order to even move forward with any of those things, first, it's about realizing how are you going to benefit? How are you going to benefit from this forgiveness for self, forgiveness for what's happened in the past? Because there's no way to move forward if you don't put the past behind you and take the gift that was within that with you to your future. It's going to weigh you down. It's going to weigh you down so heavily. I know I still have something. So we're all on a healing journey every day.
Yeah. I think it's something you're always working on. What you said, the visual of the onion, right? I always laugh. People always say, when you're done healing, I'm like, when you're dead, right? As long as you're breathing, there's always a layer, something that's being healed, something that you're working on. It's part of the process.
Yes, it's about self-love and beyond. Just look at your feelings and see what you're ready to release and what serves you best, because it's about self-love and about love for others and your awareness and just feeling free, freeing yourself from all of that so you can move forward and rewrite your story.
What do you think? There's so many good gems in this book. There's so many good takeaways. Honestly, I really did. I sat there with like a pencil just underlining half of the book, right? And then I'm like, okay, this is crazy because some of them there were whole paragraphs I was underlining and marking pages. But what is one of the most important things that you want to share with our listeners?
That you already have the wisdom within you. Inner wisdom is in each and every one of us. It does not scream, it whispers. In the quiet moments is where you connect. That's where you connect with your inner wisdom, getting away from the busy moments and put your hand on your heart, do the heart pause, which is in the book also, the heart pause, just breathe and say, what do I need to know in this moment? It's in there. And then learning to trust what you hear. For me, my inner wisdom sounds like my voice. So sometimes is that me or is that really my truth? When I hear it, it sounds like my own voice. And like you said, I don't like to hear my own voice, but that's what it sounds like. And then learning to trust it. And that's where your new story begins. It's trusting your inner wisdom.
And what is one tip for someone that's listening today? If there's just one tip that you want them to take with them or to really remember, what would that be?
That would be to be aware of your words. The words that we say, the words that we think, that's what shapes our reality. Um, my largest example in my life is I had a problem. I got hurt in an injury that hurt my neck and put my arm up over my head for a couple of months back in 2008. And I had all kinds of shots. I had all kinds of, I eventually had surgery. So I'm good. You can see me. My arm's not over my head anymore. Thank goodness. It looked like I was healed.
For those listening, I'm watching her arm is being lifted over her head.
Yes, and I did fix my hair and put on a nice shirt for her, but I didn't want to. But I wrote the story after I had surgery and my arm was down. I would tell myself constantly, and someone would say, "How are you? How you doing?" My neck hurts, because it did. My neck hurt. I was so out of alignment from those 2 months of being all crooked and all the things that I'd went through during that period in my life. And it became one word. Instead of saying three words, my neck hurts, I'd say, my neck hurts, my neck hurts. And I started saying that in my head. Nobody would even ask me, and I'd say, my neck hurts. When I decided to change that story, it changed how I feel. I changed that from my neck hurts to my neck feels great. I don't care what anybody asked me, how you doing? My neck feels great. And they didn't ask about my neck, but that's how I spoke to myself. And that's how I shifted that energy. When you shift that energy, I mean, it happens quickly. your body, your mind, your emotions automatically say, well, that's my truth. That's my truth. My neck still hurt, but I told myself it didn't. And gosh, here I am. My surgeon told me that it would only be good for, the fix that he did would only be good for about 10 years. And that was 2008. And this is 2025. And I'm good. So
Right.
shift language. Choose just one thing. Maybe it's tired. Maybe I'm not good enough. That's a big one for all of us. Just turn it around. Change the energy, because as soon as you change the energy of your words and your thoughts, that's how you're going to change your story.
That is such a great tip because I don't think people realize we all do that, especially women. We're like very abusive of ourselves, right? We're always like, God, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I didn't figure that out. Or, right? And it's funny because you wouldn't talk to someone else that way, right? But yet we talk to ourselves that way. So that's a great tip.
We do. And then also the things that are learned behaviors. We've all talked and read about that. Learned behaviors. Growing up, it was all lack. I grew up, my mom and my brother and I grew up at my grandmother's house, and we didn't have much. It's freezing cold, frost on my windows upstairs in the winter. And then but it was always, how are we going to get there? Paycheck to paycheck. We don't have any money. We don't have enough money. There was always money, money, money. And it took me a long time to shift that out of my life also, because that was ingrained in my thoughts and my mind and my being. And and I had to change that story. There's so many that stories that we learn, stories that we tell ourselves also.
Now, I know you mentioned before that you're going to be working on another book, so we'll have to have you back. And by then, maybe I would have mastered the art of audio as well as video as well as audio. We'll see. We'll see. I don't want to put too much pressure on myself. But do you want to just talk briefly about how people can work with you? Because as I said before, you wrote the book, but you're not just an author. You do healing work and you have courses. So do you want to just talk briefly about how people can work with you?
Yes, thank you. My website is thesoulsharmony.com, the Souls Harmony, and that's where you can find everything about me on there. It has my story, and it will tell you about my book, of course, that we've been talking about. And it also, there's a place on there for the what's called the me energy. It's the energy that brought me from from my healing from day one even through today, and it's called the Meridian Enlightenment Energy Healing. It's about Meridian Enlightenment, me. It's about me healing me. It's about opening the heart, making that connection from your physical from your spiritual down to your physical. And it's 5 simple steps. And the story about that is on my website. The way that you can work with me is I do sessions on others. You can learn this energy on your own. And the book Magic Power in Me will be out at the beginning of next year. And that will tell you the energy and how to access it, the five different movements for mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and then just overall balancing your meridian energy, our primary lines. And then I also have a program called Life by Design. It's about mastering your mindset, connecting to your inner wisdom, living your life purpose, connecting to your guidance, inner and outer spiritual guides. All kinds of things. I have a weekly newsletter that I put out called, I have to be careful when I say this, Your Monday Shift List, so I don't slip the tongue. Your Monday Shift List. And it is, you can sign up for that on my website. And that gives you a quick little shift. It's really short. It gives you a quick shift that you can use each week. And within that is my weekly blog, which is an expansion if you want to, think and learn a little more about that particular shift. So sign up for your Monday shift list. I put what I call a shift gift in there also each time, a little downloadable page that supports the shift. I've got several things on there. 5 heart-centered shifts. It's a little mini in-book or ebook, inner wisdom quiz that you can take. There's heartfelt perspective guide. I've got lots of freebies that I have on there for you.
Very good. Lots of fun stuff to get people started on their journey. I love it. So I always love to ask people, What is the one thing that you love the most about what you do?
What I love most is watching others remember who they are and living from their heart.
I love that. And I always, whenever I have a guest, I always ask, what keeps you going through challenging times?
That would be my inner guidance. Um, it My inner guidance reminds me that within every challenge, there's meaning, there's a gift, and there's growth. And when I pay attention, I I find a deeper truth within myself, and it's just sitting there waiting for me to listen about listening to the heart.
And now your book, they can get through your website as well.
Yes, I have a link, or I have a whole page actually on my. I keep showing you my book, like you can see. I have a link on my thesoulsharmony.com. You can also go to Amazon, and it comes in an ebook, but it also comes in a paperback.
I love it. I'm telling you, I cannot say enough how much I love this book. And the other thing that I love too, I am one of those people, and our listeners already know this about me. I like things that are simple and easy. I don't like things that take 9,000 years. This was such an easy read. And it was like one of those things that you just didn't want to put it down because it was so quick. You're like, okay, let me do the next thing. And it was just written in a way, I think sometimes people try to do things that they make it so much more complicated than it needs to be. And then you're trying to figure out, like, what are people talking about? And I just love this was such a good, quick read. And, you could go back to things. And I just loved everything about it. So I want to end on another thing that I highlighted. I think this was also from chapter 6, and it was, your healing is ultimately your responsibility. And I just think that is a perfect way to wrap this up, because I do, understand that everybody's in a different place. Some people are dealing with small challenges, some people are dealing with overwhelming challenges, some people are going to be dealing with the biggest challenges they've ever been through. And I know you've been through things, I've been through things, and I think no matter where a listener is at their in their life right now, no matter what challenges they're dealing with, there is a gem in here for each and every person. And I keep saying that because I know people can't see the cover, but it'll be on the podcast, the little picture that I'll use. But there is a picture of a heart that looks like a gem. So I love that because I feel like that just is the intro to the book. So the book is called Smiling from the Heart. Rewrite your life story with inner wisdom, all your questions answered. And we have been talking today to Tearhsa Wilder, and I just cannot thank you enough for taking the time with us. And I want to be the first to know when the next book comes out, because I really do want to have you back on and talk about that, because I think it will just be as amazing as this book. So thank you so much for making time for us today.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for your love and your support, as always, Lisa Ann.
Thank you. I just loved Tearhsa's message of courage and compassion, and that gentle reminder that we always have the power to rewrite our story. If you'd like to connect with Tearhsa or learn more about her book, Smiling from the Heart, you can visit her online at thesoulsharmony.com. Follow her on Facebook and Instagram at The Soul's Harmony, or sign up for her uplifting weekly newsletter, Your Monday Shift List, also available through her website, thesoulsharmony.com. And as always, thank you for joining me today on Psychically Speaking. Remember, if you love this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little inspiration. And remember to join me for my free weekly Psychically Speaking Live held via Zoom. For more information, visit spiritquestnc.com. Until next time, keep listening to your intuition, keep speaking your truth, and most of all, keep being the light.